Welcome to the Wisdom That Breathes channel. Across all our platforms, we try to share wisdom which is relevant and accessible to everyone. But on this particular platform, we go deeper into some of the ancient principles found within the scriptures. If you find some of the terminology difficult or inaccessible, then go over to our Keshava Swami YouTube channel where you'll be able to find other content which is perhaps more relatable. Thank you and enjoy the wisdom that breathes. Chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. The scriptures are very, very beautiful because they can be seen through so many different angles. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he says in a beautiful verse, Krishna Tulya Bhagavata Vibhu Sarva Shrai Prati Shloke Prati Akshare Nana Arthakai. He says, Krishna, Bhagavata or Shastra, Tulya, it's completely the same. Vibhu Sarva Shrai, they're both unlimited. And therefore he says, Prati Shloke, in every verse, Prati Akshare, what to speak of every verse, every syllable, Nana Arthakai, there are many, many hidden meanings, unknown meanings. So you can keep reading and seeing things from different angles of vision. So one angle of vision that Jiva Goswami gives when he looks at the Gita is sometimes acharyas see what we don't see. So he sees something which is very interesting and he notes it in his commentary. He says, let's look at the very first instruction that Krishna gives in the Gita and the very last instruction. Because generally the very first thing that someone says and the very last thing that they say usually is what's important. So he says the very first instruction that Krishna gives to Arjuna, Asocyan anvasochastvam pragyavadamscha bhashashe gataso nagatasumscha na anusochanti pandita. In essence, Krishna says to Arjuna, na anusochanti, don't worry, don't be in anxiety. Krishna looks at Arjuna and he says, you are worrying about and you are in anxiety about that which you don't need to worry about, you don't need to be in anxiety. So the very first thing he says, don't worry, don't be in anxiety. Na anusochanti. And then the very final instruction that Krishna gives to Arjuna in the Gita, Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam saranam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshaishami ma sucha. So he says the same word comes again. Don't be in anxiety, don't worry, don't fear anything. So Jiva Goswami says this is very, very revealing. Because he said the basic human condition is that we're constantly in anxiety, we're constantly worried about things. And what happens is it overshadows our life in this world. I don't know how many of you watch cartoons, but you know sometimes there was that cartoon character and where everything was sunny, but over them was a rain cloud. And it's like wherever they walked, everything was sunny, but there's this rain cloud over them. So sometimes our life is like that. We can't really relish anything because we're overshadowed by worries, anxieties, problems, and it's blocking us. Would anyone here like to have more problems in their life? Any takers? Generally, yeah? Okay, there we go, a brave soul. It's on camera. We'll play this back to you at one point. There's actually a famous story of a king, and everyone was coming to the king and complaining, I got so many problems. And in Vedic times, actually, it was actually the king's responsibility to make sure everyone had a peaceful life. So they were all coming to him, so he said, my God, everyone's telling me their problems. So then one day he announced in the whole kingdom, I am opening a gallery, and I want everyone to display their problems. So everyone came and made a display of their problems. And then he said, now I invite all of you to come in. So they all came into the gallery, and sometimes we also let's be honest, we like to see other people's problems. So they were all walking around the gallery and they were looking, my God, look at that person's problems. Like, wow, oh, look at that one. So it was very entertaining. And then at the end of the day, everyone was leaving the gallery. And the king said, whoa, where's everyone going? I've got a gallery full of problems here. Everyone has to take one set of problems with them. Otherwise, you can't get out. Normally, there's an entrance fee. Here, there was an exit fee. So they all now went into the gallery and they were looking at everyone's problems in a different way, because you have to take one set with you. So now they looked at this person and said, that's not too bad. But they got that problem. No, don't take that set. Then they looked at someone, not too bad. No, but that thing is there. Everyone looked at everyone else's problems and said, you know what? Let me take my own set of problems and get out of here. So it's kind of interesting story, because we tend to just see the other good parts of people's lives, and we tend to think that my life is out of balance, I'm worse off. But actually, we all have our fair share of problems. But now the interesting thing is, when you came to Krishna consciousness, did your problems increase or decrease? Increase? It's interesting, when we, especially for all of us here, when we take on service actually brings a lot of worries, a lot of anxiety, a lot of obstacles, and a lot of problems. Agree or disagree? Agree? Can you tell me some of the problems you've experienced while taking up devotional service? What problems, what obstacles, what difficulties do you encounter in your service? Anyone want to share?
Managing disagreements between people.
We don't disagree in the Hare Krishna movement. Disagreement, conflict, trying to keep everyone happy. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If you make a decision, it's the wrong one. If you don't make a decision, you're spaced out. So managing opinions, very difficult. And this creates a lot of anxiety, actually. What else? Yes?
It's sometimes difficult to say no.
It's difficult to say no, and then what happens is you become overburdened. Not overburdened, but you don't have enough time. You can't balance. You want to do everything, you can't do everything, but you don't want to say no. And then you find soon your life is out of balance, but you can't say no. Good. What else? Yes? Yes.
All the rules.
All the rules.
Some of them, seem sometimes not that.
What kind of rules are you talking about? The rules that you have to follow when you're doing service? Like that? Okay, like that.
Or the rules in the temple and stuff like that, and where someone wants you to behave in a certain way or represent a certain way, and you just want to be yourself.
Okay, so sometimes it feels like when you take up a service, because you're in a position of responsibility or there's an expectation, you can't be your authentic self. You have to almost play a role, and it doesn't always feel like it's you. But at the same time, you do want to serve. Very good. Yeah. What else?
The influence of criticism.
Criticism. Yes, we've all been criticized. Sometimes criticized for what you've not done. Sometimes misjudged. Or sometimes someone criticizes you as right, but it's disproportionate to what you did. You know, like it's sometimes the way someone may react to us is way beyond what is required to redress the issue. So criticism is difficult. What other worries, anxieties, problems? I'm giving you a chance to vent.
Trying to be connected to Krishna, but it's not quite working sometimes.
Okay, so a feeling that you're serving, but you're not feeling a connection, a remembrance of Krishna. You feel like you're doing it, but you don't feel necessarily so devotional doing it. And you want to do devotional service, but sometimes it doesn't feel very devotional. Like, yeah.
For me, a big source of anxiety is that devotees come to Krishna consciousness and then they leave again. I can't handle this somehow.
Okay, so that's very painful for you, that, you know, when you see people leaving, or when you see that you'd like to serve, you'd like to bring joy to everyone, but it doesn't always work like that. People become dissatisfied. That's very painful, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, just yesterday someone told me of someone very dear to, who stayed with us in the ashram for quite some time. And unfortunately, for the time being, we only hope, has distanced himself from the devotees, and it's very painful. Yeah. So yes. One more? Anyone?
Being full-heartedly identified with the service, and at the same time letting go of the identification.
Of the glorification? Identification. Yeah, how to put your heart into something, how to give 100%, how to endeavor to the best of your ability, and then step back and be detached. How to be fully absorbed but detached at the same time. That's a great art, because sometimes we get attached to the identity of it, or the results of it, or the expectation that we have in it. So these are all definitely different obstacles that come in our devotional service. So the first thing I want to share with you is that devotional service is not a peaceful life. Sorry to drop that bomb there. Vrindavan was actually quite a peaceful place before Krishna came there. As soon as Krishna came, demons came. As soon as Krishna gave advice, people started getting unsettled by it. The Brijabasis were doing well. They were offering to Indra. Everything was perfect, you know. And then Krishna came, and he had a different idea. All hell broke loose. So it's very interesting that Braj is not necessarily a place of shanti. It's a place of bhav. It's a place of emotion. There's a lot of emotional movement in Vrindavan. And one of the movements in Vrindavan is definitely transcendental anxiety. So the first thing I want to share with you is that the obstacles, the difficulties, the anxieties, the worries, the problems, this is not a sign that something is going wrong necessarily. This is part of emotional, spiritual, dynamic life in which we're cultivating bhakti bhav. One of the flavors is anxiety and worries, problems. But the interesting thing is that devotees take on those problems. My analysis is that we didn't come to spiritual life asking for more anxiety or problems. But as we advance in spiritual life, what we do seek is more responsibility. A devotee invites more and more responsibility in their life, and the more and more responsibility that you take, the more and more problems and anxiety and worries will come. Responsibility is very, very beautiful, because what responsibility is it's a deepening of someone's service attitude. In the beginning, we say, I can do some service. And then when our service attitude goes even deeper, then we will say, I will make sure this service is done. I'll take responsibility, and if it's required, I will go the extra mile to make sure that this will happen. And that deepening of the service attitude is what we call responsibility. And so what you see in the Bhagavatam is that all the great characters, they take extra responsibility because they're deepening their service attitude. But the interesting thing is, when they take extra responsibility, also with that comes extra anxiety and problems and difficulties. In the second canto, Brahmaji takes a great responsibility to create the universe, to engineer the universe, and to manage the whole universal affairs. And his life is a series of complex problems and anxieties and worries that come after that. The first thing is, he's given this task to re-engineer the whole universe, and there's nothing to do it with. He has nothing at his disposal. And then all he hears in the ether is the sound, tapa, tapa. So sometimes it's like that in ISKCON. You get a job service opportunity, and then you're like, where's the manpower? Tapa. I got it. Where's the funds? Tapa. Where's the training? Tapa. So it's kind of like that. There's no resources to do it. So that's a problem. It's an anxiety. Anyway, finally, when Brahmaji then starts doing it, then his own sons. I mean, imagine, Brahma is told by the Lord, create. His whole body is made of intelligence, so you can't doubt his intelligence. And his own sons, he goes to and tells them, can you help me create? And they're like, no. It's like, no, Krishna told me to do this. Can you help me with it? No. But you're my sons. Doesn't matter, not doing it. The Kumaras don't do it. So when you're in management, don't be surprised if people tell you, no. What do you mean? I mean, it's historical, it happens. So Brahma's life, when you take up that, it's not easy. Even when Brahma created all the 14 planetary systems, all the 8.4 million species of life, did everything perfectly, who came to him and criticized him? The gopis. Atati yad bhavan anikananam tuti yugayate tvam apasyatam jada udikshitam pakshmakridrisham. He said, Brahma, you did a lousy job. Lousy job. 14 planetary systems, 8.4 million species of life, perfect ecosystem. You did a lousy job because you created eyes which have eyelids which blink for a moment and mean we can't see Krishna. Of course, that was transcendental criticism. But the lesson is, no matter what you do, there will be a problem. So Brahma takes responsibility, but problems, anxiety, all these things will come. In the 5th canto, Priyavrata takes responsibility. He doesn't actually want to take the responsibility. He wants to stay in the forest and say, like, I'll just do my bhakti. But everyone convinces him, no, you have to become the king. And when you become the king, it means you get all of these things, complexity, you become a celebrity, you get, all this attention, you didn't want it, and it brings problems and anxiety. So he didn't want it, but he did it. In the 7th canto, Prahlad takes responsibility. He says in a very famous verse, Nevo dvijay paraduratya yavetaranyas tvadvirya gayana mahamrita magna chitto sochetato vimukachetasa indriyartha maya sukhaya bharamudvahato vimuddhan. He says, I'm fine. I'm okay in my life. I could just go to the mountains and be happy. But I don't want to go alone. Rather, I want to go into the cities and I want to go and help the people, Maya, Sukhaya, Bharam, who are holding this heavy load of trying to enjoy materially, and I want to try to help them. So he knows it's going to be complex, but he takes it on. So like this, every canto, 8th canto, Shiva does the same thing. When the poison comes out of the ocean, then he takes that poison and he holds it. And the very famous verse is given there, Tapyante lokatapena sadhavo prayaso jana paramaradhanam tadhi purushasya kilatmana. How do you know someone is advanced? What's the measure? Tapyante lokatapena. How much suffering are they voluntarily willing to accept in order to remove the suffering of others? Param aradhanam. This is the highest way to worship Krishna, is when you take worry and anxiety and problems because you want to remove the worries, anxieties and problems of others. He says there's no higher way to worship Krishna than this. So he takes it. So like this, it's a theme. But now I'm going to read you a verse. And it's a kind of mind-blowing verse. This is from Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Sharanagati poems. And now I want to ask you, how would you explain this verse? So listen very carefully. I'm going to ask you, how do you explain what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying? So this is what he sings. Tomar sevaya dukha hoya jato seota parama sukha seva sukha dukha parama sampada nashaye avidya dukha. So this is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in Saranagati. All the troubles encountered in your service are the greatest source of my happiness. For in your devotional service, joy and sorrow are equally great riches. So here Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, when problems come in your devotional service, it's not just that I tolerate it. He's saying when problems come in devotional service, it's not just that I welcome it. He's saying when problems come in devotional service, I see it as the greatest source of my happiness. Dear friends, can you explain this to me? How is it that a devotee sees the problems that they encounter in devotional service? How is it that he's processing it as the greatest source of his happiness? Why? Any ideas?
More shelter, more remembering Lord. More shelter, more remembering Lord and getting close.
So you're saying when we go through problems, then it means that we have to take more shelter, we have to remember the Lord, we have to surrender more, and in that surrender, in that remembrance, we actually experience a greater type of happiness because we come closer to Krishna. Very nice.
Putting more efforts in services
Okay.
of Lord and remembering Lord
So this is a very great, wonderful point. When problems come, what happens is you have to deepen your service attitude. When things are easy, you don't have to deepen your service attitude. But when there are problems, when there's criticism, when people aren't listening to you, when there seems to be opposition, then your service attitude has to go deeper. And the deeper your service attitude goes, the more you taste seva nanda, the happiness of seva. Because the happiness of seva is in proportion to the purity of the service attitude. And so problems give you an opportunity to deepen your service attitude. Very good. Any other ideas? Why is it that the troubles encountered, the problems, the obstacles, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, are the greatest source of my happiness? Any other ideas?
Maharaj, we can see Krishna's hand in all of those troubles and difficulties. And as you already also spoke and Prabhu have mentioned that when we see Krishna's hand, and we can literally feel the presence of Krishna in the difficult times and difficulties.
Okay, so you see, so the devotee sees when problems and obstacles come in their service, that this is Krishna's hand, this is Krishna's intervention. And what does Krishna say? Yasyaham anugranami harishe tad dhanam shanei tato dhanam tyajantasya svajana dukadukitam. When I especially favor someone, then I give them dukadukitam, one problem after the other. Prabhupada quoted this verse in a lecture once and he said, I have personal experience of this. And then everyone laughed like you did. And Prabhupada said, don't laugh. If it happens to you, you'll be very morose. But yeah, a devotee sees that this is Krishna's way of bringing me closer to him. How fortunate I am that Krishna is taking a personal interest. How fortunate I am that Krishna is giving me more opportunity now. He's interested, he's seeing, he's participating. Any other reasons? Okay.
The one viewpoint is that for pure devotee, happiness and distress are different flavors of ecstasy. So for him it's the same, but only for pure devotees.
For a pure devotees, happiness and distress are different flavors of ecstasy. Do you want to say more about that? How did I see it? How is it that a devotee sees problems as a source of, like you have a service and someone is criticizing you publicly on social media. How does a devotee frame that so that they become ecstatic?
As I say, for pure devotee.
Yeah. So, but my point is, how is the pure devotee seeing it that makes them think? Obviously, we are seeing criticism in a certain way, and a pure devotee is seeing criticism in a different way. That's why they're experiencing something different. So my question to you is, when we see someone criticizing us, we're like, they're unfair, I didn't do anything wrong, we feel frustrated, angry. So how does a pure devotee see it?
There was one story of a great saint who gave Bhagavad Katha in Vrindavan, and he was very influential, and also one king became attracted to him. And then his wife, the wife of the king, became worried that the king would leave the kingdom and go to Vrindavan. And she set up a scheme and sent one of her maidservants who was pregnant and said to go to the Bhagavad Katha. He said, oh yeah, you speak very holy, but this is the result, and I became pregnant because of you. And then the holy man said, oh, it's very good now that you removed my appreciation from other.
Okay, yeah.
That's what we
So
want
they
to
see,
get,
yes.
because you say social media.
Yes.
And
So they see that people are helping them to become humble, to improve their character, to help them develop tolerance. Yeah. Like say, for example, a devotee knows that prema, in Vaishnava theology, prema and dainya, or humility, go hand in hand. And therefore, as dainya is increasing, one's capacity for experiencing love also increases. In a heart which is pervaded by humility, in such a heart, love can expand. And therefore, a devotee, when worries, anxieties, problems come, they see, here is Krishna giving me an opportunity to culture a deeper heart of humility. And in that way, I'll be able to experience more love. And so Krishna is bringing me down. Srila Prabhupada says the two psychological tendencies of the conditioned soul is to be the controller and to be the enjoyer. And so all of these problems that we face are basically engineered by Krishna to remove those psychological tendencies. You realize, I'm not in control, I'm not the enjoyer. And then in the humility of not being the controller and enjoyer, it's actually a big, massive liberation. So in that way, thank you. Very nice. Yes?
I'm just guessing.
Yes.
So, Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur says happiness and distress both. So when we experience happiness, or let's say Bhaktivinoda Thakur, then it's a reason to rejoice and to see Krishna's blessings in our life. But when there is distress, maybe he is rejoicing because Krishna promises that he will always protect his devotees. So in this way,
Also, he's giving Krishna an opportunity to...
not that he's giving, but he's like, okay, now Krishna will appear more in my life.
Oh,
He will
okay,
protect
okay.
me from-
Okay, so the devotee is always expecting the Lord's mercy, expecting the Lord's protection. Avashya Rakibe Krishna. Krishna will surely protect me. So now I'm in a precarious situation. Krishna, here we go. Where are you? So yes, but that's also, yes. Actually, it's mentioned like that in the commentaries, that the cowherd boys, they were often putting themselves in precarious situations deliberately, because they were like, yeah, then Krishna has to come and save us. And I think last time I also showed that video of Shyam Sundar Prabhu, and it's kind of connected, in which he said that Prabhupada said, if you take a risk for Krishna, then Krishna has to come and protect you. And he said we tested that to the max. So the devotee, sometimes being in a precarious situation, sees it as an opportunity to experience the hand of Krishna protecting them. Very beautiful. Thank you.
Is this Kunti Devi praying for,
Yes.
please give me
More,
more and more
yes.
Vipadas so that I can see you? Is that the same emotion?
Yeah. And do you have any thought? Why is the obstacles of devotional service the greatest source of ecstasy? It's a very emphatic statement. Think about that. Did you want to say that?
I'm
Yeah.
praying for obstacles.
You are praying? You're
I
not.
would not at
You're
this
not.
level,
Okay.
but I think that it's the same sentiment of, you promised to protect me, so if there are more and more Vipata, you have to come and protect. So
Yes.
seeing
Experience
you is
Krishna's
my,
hand.
that's my greatest joy, and so please give me more and more.
Yeah. Thank you.
This really.
Yeah. Thank you. Was there another hand here? No. Oh yes.
Maybe if there are problems, then it's really selfless service, because normally you may just enjoy the activity like on a material level,
Right.
but if
Very
there
good.
are anxieties and problems, then you only can do it for Krishna.
Yeah, that's such a great point. The devotee is so humble that they're thinking, my life is valuable if I do devotional service. But every time I serve, it's very mixed. It's Mishra Bhakti. It's mixed with so many expectations, so many extra benefits that I get. So then Krishna, when he gives me an opportunity to serve in a situation where there's no benefits but rather challenges, then I can go to a higher level of purity in my service. And in that way, I'll actually do devotional service, and then Krishna will reciprocate with me. That's such a nice point. Thank you. Yeah, all of these are there. Did you want to say something? Thank you. No. Yes.
Maybe also practice, when you get a negative reaction during service or something happens, you may react as well. And then you learn from your mistake and you remember how important it is to, hold a certain thing. And so I find it very good to break my pride.
Okay, that's another beautiful point. Yeah. That the obstacles that we face in devotional service reveal our weaknesses. A sincere devotee, when their weaknesses are revealed, when their weaknesses are exposed, they actually become happy. Because now they know, this is what I have to work on. Most people in the world religiously avoid getting any feedback. It is like whatever I can, I just don't want to hear any feedback. But they say feedback is the breakfast of champions, because when you actually hear what you need to improve on, then it actually opens up the path to progress. And in the same way, when we go through obstacles and we're exposed, I'm not as detached as I thought. I'm not as tolerant as I thought. I'm not as unmotivated as I thought. Then it becomes a great source of joy, because now the devotee knows this is what I have to actually work on. And this is what's blocking me from higher experiences. Let's work on it. So, thank you. That's a beautiful one. Yes?
I noticed when I was living in the temple full time, I know nowadays you don't say full-time devotee anymore, but Prabhupada did it too.
As a resident.
In the temple, as a brahmachari, I also came into a situation where I was totally overworked. And I see this also with some devotees nowadays, and some of residential devotees in parts of Germany, that they are overworked.
Yes.
And they don't seem to have too much joy. So there seem to be something, if you get too much of a good thing, when you're not on a level that you can actually take it like Prabhupada would take it, then that they seem to be a little depressed sometimes with too much of a good thing.
And that's maybe a good segue into the next part. Unless before I go ahead, you'd like to speak now or later, Mark? Yeah. So I began by talking about how problems, anxieties, they're a part of life. Then I talked about how when we take up service, problems and anxieties will come. Braj was peaceful until Krishna came, so it will come. Then the third thing I talked about is how actually Bhaktivinoda Thakur says the problems and anxieties are the greatest source of happiness. And I asked you why that is, and you gave me many reasons. So then the final $64 million question is, what makes us qualified to be able to perceive problems, anxieties, obstacles in the way that Bhaktivinoda Thakur experiences it? How do we develop that resilience? How do we develop that consciousness? How do we actually live a spiritual life in which we can take on responsibility and also experience the ups and downs that go with that without being discouraged, but by actually becoming more and more spiritually inspired? If we can learn the art of how to do that, then you can be active in this movement, you can take more and more responsibility, and you can become more and more ecstatic. which would be nice. So what do we have to do? So what I want to share with you is 5 things. And when I share these 5 things with you, I don't share them so much as a hierarchy, but rather the image you can keep in your mind is of concentric circles. And from whatever I've read in Shastra and whatever I've experienced through seeing devotees doing amazing service, is that these 5 things they keep very, very strong in their life. And when these 5 things are there, their ability to see any problems or anxieties or ups and downs in a joyful way is basically expanded. The core of it is what I call you have to be spiritually inspired. Then around that, I say you have to be mission focused. I'll explain these in a second. Around that, I tell people you have to become emotionally connected. Around that, I say you have to be psycho-physically situated. And then around that, I say you have to be practically balanced. And if these are like 5 keys, and if you do these 5 things, then your service will never feel like a burden, your service will never feel overwhelming, but rather your service and everything that comes with it will bring you the greatest joy and happiness. So the core of it is that we have to be spiritually inspired, which means that we need to spend time alone with Krishna. We need to spend time remembering why we're doing all of this. Our service often becomes very, very much focused on the how and the what. But unless the why is very, very strong, the how and the what can start feeling very, very burdensome after some time. And therefore, the most powerful and joyful devotees always spend time reconnecting with their why. And we reconnect with our why by being spiritually inspired, by reading, by chanting, by remembering who we're serving, why we're serving them, and how this activity that we have the opportunity is a great privilege. It's not a responsibility, it's a privilege. So Srila Prabhupada does write to devotees that if you don't have strong hearing and chanting, then eventually all of your service will become a burden. And so Devamita Maharaj once said in a class that devotees didn't leave the movement because they had too much service. They left the movement because they didn't have enough hearing and chanting. And when you have so much service that you have no time for hearing and chanting, then it's a problem. Because we can only go for so long on duty and responsibility. There must be taste and inspiration and vision. So the core of being a joyful devotee is to be spiritually inspired. And then around that, I say the next thing that we have to focus on is being mission focused. Each one of us are in ISKCON, each one of us are in this community, and each one of us have to find our mission within the mission. And what the devotee who finds their mission within their mission, the bigger mission, they get a certain focus because that mission inspires them, it moves them, it resonates with them, it excites them. Then what happens is they have so much more capacity to deal with other things, because obstacles are just what you see when you take your eyes off the goal. So when someone is so inspired by their goal, the obstacles almost, they don't affect you in the same way. And so we all have to find our mission within the mission. And there's no big or small in the Hare Krishna movement. I feel very fortunate to have grown up at the manor And at the manor, I saw devotees who found their mission within the mission, and it was very different, but it was all very beautiful. I served under a temple president whose mission was to make Bhaktivedanta Manor the most vibrant temple. So as a temple president, that was his mission. But then we had a wonderful devotee who just dedicated her life to making Krishna's sweets and making sure Krishna had the best Mangalarti sweets. And she did that for 40 years. And that was her mission. And there was another devotee whose mission was just to make sure that Bhaktivedanta Manor should just have the cleanest toilets. And he did it. And he took it seriously. And that was his mission. And he was inspired by that. And so when we find a mission within the mission, then you'll find that service never becomes a burden, because it's just exciting, it's enthusing. So be spiritually inspired, and then be mission focused. And then the third thing I say around that we have to have, is we have to be emotionally connected. The temple president who I talked to you about, every Sunday he would invite me to his office. And although I was much junior to him, every single week without fail I would turn up at his office because I knew he wanted to see me at that time. And for 1 hour he would just share with me all the crazy things that are happening. And after 1 hour, who am I to give advice? I was too junior, but I would just sit there and listen. And after 1 hour, I would walk out of the office, and I remember once I was walking out and he looked at me and he said, "Thanks for being my therapist." And I said, "But I didn't give you any advice." And he said, "Therapists don't do anything, they just listen." And once he said to me, "Sometimes we also just need someone to listen to us." And in that moment, I realized that one who's emotionally connected, who has friends, who has people that they can share their heart with, they gain so much strength from that emotional exchange. And therefore, if you have friends, you can face anything. It's never going to become overwhelming, because your friends will just help you to digest everything. So alone, ekaki amar, nahi paya bal. Alone, ekaki amar, no strength. I don't have any strength. Friends, everyone needs to be emotionally connected. And then I say around that, psychophysically situated. When one is situated in the right ashram, in the right varna, when one is basically living their swadharma, then what happens is you have so much more strength. And we all know the famous story in the Bhagavatam of Gajendra fighting the crocodile. And although Gajendra the elephant was so much more powerful, because he was in the water, in an alien, foreign environment, he started getting weaker and weaker and weaker. So Prabhupada writes in that purport that one must always fight the material energy from a place of strength. And therefore those devotees who are psychophysically situated properly in their life have so much more ability. And the final thing that I tell people is practically balanced. Yukta ahara viharasya, yukta chestasya karmasu, yukta swapno vabodasya, yogo bhavati dukaha. Krishna says you have to be regulated in eating, sleeping, work, and recreation. And if you do this, yogo bhavati dukaha. Dukaha, all the pains, all the miseries will immediately be mitigated. And so we need to find balance in our lives. Srila Prabhupada also writes a very beautiful letter where he tells one devotee, don't take on more than you can manage, and then become full of anxiety, and then you become discouraged, and then you leave Krishna consciousness because you're not balanced. So therefore we must know what the balance lies. And so I'm trying to share this with you as a very comprehensive way of living a life in which you can find deep spiritual resilience that will allow you to unlock deep spiritual joy. Because if you are able to do your service, number one, do your service joyfully, number two, and do your service joyfully, number three, for a long amount of time, then you will experience deeper and deeper experiences of Krishna consciousness. But too often what I see in our movement is that devotees do service, but it's not joyful, because there's not enough spiritual inspiration, there's not enough sense of the mission that I have in this, there's not enough emotional connection, there's not enough psychophysical balance, well situated psychophysically, and there's not enough practical balance. And therefore it's not joyful. And even if devotees do service and they're joyful, what we often see is that in our communities, people take up a service, but then they're not able to sustain. And it's not for us to point fingers or say someone is bad because they didn't carry on. But no one will be able to carry on if these things are not there. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur is basically teaching us that it's all beautiful. When you come to devotional service, you become the richest person because your life has meaning now because you can offer something to Krishna. And he says, whatever experiences I go through in that, it all brings me great happiness. But in order to get there, we need to kind of live this kind of structure of a spiritual life. So please take care of yourself. You know, it's a long journey. And you all have to stay together, and you all will go through so much together. All of these things, criticism, misjudgment, imbalance, opposition. Now I know there is opposition, you know, there's... don't worry, that's also a good thing. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, it's like homeopathic medicine. He gave this example. He said, when someone takes homeopathic medicine, then the sign that it's working is that first the thing gets worse. So sometimes when you start, he said, when there's opposition, then it means that you're moving in a good direction. So, but you all have to stay together, and so these are just some thoughts that I wanted to share with you, because I know, we all know, it's not so easy. There's so much problems and anxieties that come, but this is a great opportunity. All right, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. I'll ask maybe Maharaj if you'd like to share something on this, and then we can maybe open up for questions or comments.
Yes, thank you very, very much.
Mr. Maharaj.
I think we got something very, very practical from you. What should I do? Like this? And perhaps it's nice if we just go one time through it again. Maharaj was sharing 5 things for us that will help us to develop more spiritual resilience and then contact more Krishna consciousness. How did it all start? We should remain spiritually inspired. We should have our own mission within the mission. I know the temple community he was referring to, Bhaktivedanta Manor, yes, and I know there was Shruti Dharma who had this amazing vision for the temple, but then there was the sweet maker, 40 years of Mangal Aratik sweets, which she brought to perfection. So that was her goal. Then what else was there? We should be emotionally connected and perhaps balanced or stable. And then, yes, next, psychophysically established. That means according to our nature, no? And finally, there was practically balanced, and he quoted this Bhagavad Gita verse. Yeah, I would just like to talk about the first concentric circle perhaps, but you said they overlap. It's not just that they are located, that is spiritually inspired. You know, anxiety and fear has, from the spiritual perspective, one cause. It's when you cannot see Krishna in it. Even from the psychological perspective, C.G. Jung says the human being can almost deal with any problematic situation as long as he can see that there is some meaning and sense behind it. The moment he feels this is, and he quotes Shakespeare, this is a tale told by an idiot which does not make any meaning and sense of all, he collapses. And we know from the work of Viktor Frankl, people who were in a concentration camp, they could deal with everything until the moment where they lost their sense of meaning and the sense of hope. He said he knew when the person would die when he stopped shaving himself. I know nowadays, Jayatam will agree, having a little beard is very decorative. No? But in the old times, when you stopped taking care of yourself, that was the understanding. You did not see any sense in maintaining your life. You were broken and you died. Not because someone killed you, but because you killed yourself. And you don't see any meaning. Now for a devotee, this seeing sense and meaning in his life is not a question of psychological thing. It is because he sees Krishna's plan, Krishna's hand behind it. And I would like to share a personal story. It was in 1976. I had come back from India to Switzerland after a long tour of singing and distributing prasad in India, and I was very weak, and in that weakened state I caught malaria and needed to go to the hospital. The doctor said, "Oh, Mr. Monk, you didn't take care of your body. You just did your monk activities." And I thought, but it's right. Then my father and mother, who heard from the doctor that the son may live only for a few more days, came by helicopter into the hospital. My father said, "This is the result of being in the Hare Krishna movement. You didn't care about your body. You didn't care about your life. You just gave. Now the doctor told me there's nothing he can do for you." And for a moment, I also began to see this as senseless. Oh, I'm only giving, giving, giving. There's so many obstacles. Now I'm ill. I might die. Malaria is, when you cannot catch it any longer. With quinine was the medicine at that time, or any other medicine, you're finished. So at that time, I had to do some deep reflection. And what I came up with is, no, this was perfectly within the plan of the Lord. When there are heavy illnesses, I thought, Krishna takes away all our bad karma. So it was not so bad. I was being relieved. About this point of sacrifice, I thought, well, I have obtained the human form of life and I could do service for Krishna. This is wonderful. I'm preparing for the kingdom of God. And I began to frame the whole experience of lying in the hospital in a different way. I didn't think any longer it was a failure. I thought this was a glorious life which I could live. And I thought also that, yes, wherever I go now, it will be wonderful. And I also thought, I had deep conviction that with suffering, yes, there is pain, but there is also the relief from old karma. No? So I remember I could see Krishna's hand in this. I didn't feel he had left me. I felt he was all the time with me. He had protected me from many wrong decisions. And I was now, certainly this must also be in the hand of Krishna. It was not by accident. Most probably Krishna was making his surgery to remove my bad karma. And I do remember it was, the nurse came to me. I had 2 times these announcements in my life and said, this night will decide whether you live or die. And I said, well, I will live forever in whatever capacity, because I could see Krishna now in my life. I was not fearful any longer. The moment you forget Krishna, you become fearful. It's almost the moment the sun leaves your life, darkness will come. But that moment where you can remember Krishna, the bhayam dvitiniye shataha syat, the fear will go. The moment you can frame your life, and this is Krishna's arrangement, this is Krishna's will. Perhaps I cannot yet see it, but Krishna, nothing happens without Krishna. You are on the way of betterment. It was not easy, my dear devotees. It was not that the next day, pang, I shot like Japaman out of the Superman, like out of the hospital. Japaman is up. No, but after a few days, first of all, I survived the night, and then I needed to eat a little and sleep a little, because I couldn't eat and sleep well in the malaria time. But I remembered, the moment I could see Krishna's hand in it, the moment I could see Krishna, I felt inspired and spiritually inspired. But that's not enough, we have learned. Spiritual inspiration should manifest in something practical. We should find our own spiritual goal. Remember, Keshava Maharaja has taught us, and we must have emotional well-being, or be connected. We must situate ourselves in a natural position in life, and we must be a little practical by being balanced, and so on. But on the core of spiritual inspiration, my dear devotees, and the Maharaj has said this, is to spend to see Krishna's hand. If you don't see Krishna's hand in what happens in your life, finished. Then life is finished sooner or later, or you only do mechanical things. And therefore, our Maharaj has inspired us. We should spend some time, how we should do it? Alone? Completely alone? Alone with Krishna. Maharaj has instructed us. No? Alone with Krishna. I will finish. In our Govardhan retreats, we give them now 20 years. Imagine, 20 years. We have discovered now this new item, this new program is everyone goes to the place in near Govardhan. You know, we have to cross a busy road, then we go some pink stairs up, and we go into the forest. We continue on a little path. Left and right are impossible monkeys ready to steal everything from you, but we continue. And then comes a path where many pilgrims walk, and once we cross this path, we cannot talk to anyone. Once we cross this path, we will look at and find our tree. We will sit under the tree. We will not text message anything. We will not make selfie. I am now selfies. We will just be under the tree and practice being alone with Krishna. What does this mean? We will sit, we will offer a prayer, we offer a little light, we chant, or we read and reflect about spiritual questions. And after 2 hours of this, our life is new. We have seen this. People who come to this alone with Krishna part, they say that's the best part of the Govardhan retreat, when we are induced or led or inspired to go. So I want to encourage you. What Maharaj has said has a lot of substance. Every one of his points can be referenced back to sacred scriptures. Please keep this, and please also, to be spiritually inspired, have this time with Krishna. No? It's the most wonderful time, the most wonderful thing. I want to thank you very personally. You have given us again one of your practical reminders how to take the practice of Krishna consciousness into our lives. And I think we will talk in this community about this 5-step program. It's not enough to just hear it. You have to perhaps look at your life and, okay, what do I do to be spiritually inspired? Oh my God, my mission is to only do what I'm told, but perhaps I should have a goal, something like this, and we should move into this. Thank you very much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Do we have time for some discussion? If anyone would like to raise any points, or if you have any questions or any practical things you want to talk about in terms of service, mood of service, balance, or challenges that may be there. Okay, 4 hands there. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, 5. Okay.
Well, just Guru Maharaj mentioned Viktor Frankl, and just yesterday I read an article where Viktor Frankl was cited, and Viktor Frankl seemed to say that if you have a strong why,
You can deal with it.
there's you can manage anyhow, and I found this very inspirational.
Yeah, I think his quote is, if your why is strong enough, then you can deal with any how and what.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can deal with what, please?
anyhow or what? If your why is strong enough. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Who's next?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, sometimes while doing service, we keep on in our mind that this is our mission, we need to accomplish, we need to take it in the highest quality. So while doing that particular service, anything, specifically me, I'm talking about me, I become heartless. That is, some devotee or some new devotee or who is not non-Krishna consciousness, he or she comes and asks something, then while I'm concentrating in service, I say that, no, please go and ask to other devotee or Shamla Prabhu or anyone else. So is it good or bad, or how to deal with that situation?
Thank you so much. Yeah, so sometimes we're so mission focused that we
in short, becoming emotionless.
Yeah.
So is it good, bad, and how to deal with that thing?
Yeah. So I guess there could be two aspects to this. One is we become so focused on our service that we become insensitive to the people around us. And sometimes we can also become so focused on our mission, but we don't realize that our mission is part of a bigger mission. And therefore, in the purpose of getting our mission done, we may also affect someone else's service or mission in a negative way. So these two things happen a lot in the Hare Krishna movement. So, yes, of course, we are the Sankirtan movement. And the Sankirtan movement means it's a movement of congregation. We're doing it together. We're serving Krishna together. And therefore, yes, we are focused on our mission, but we always have to reconnect with what is the bigger mission of the Krishna consciousness movement. And we have to pursue our mission in such a way that it contributes to the overall mission. So for example, if your mission is to cook the feast, but we're insensitive to the people who are helping me or the people who are coming in the kitchen, then that's not being conscious of the bigger mission of ISKCON Berlin, which is to make everyone feel very much inspired and very much at home. If in the process of doing your service another devotee gets disinspired in their service, then we're not understanding that we're all one team here. And so, thank you for raising this point, because it helps us to understand that while we should be focused on our mission, we should always understand that we are part of a bigger mission, and not to lose sight of that. Otherwise, they say, the operation was successful, but the patient died. It was a success. I did my operation. I cooked the feast. But 10 people got fried out along with the samosas. So that's not good, because then the operation was successful, but the patient died. We failed in our mission. And so you see this actually, it's incredible. You see this in community so much that, like at the manor, we have 80 departments. And some of them just never speak to each other. It's amazing. And now recently we had to create something called an ecosystem, so that departments who are doing similar things actually speak to each other and connect. Because the manor can, or not just the manor, any temple can become 80 temples in one temple. So therefore we always need to communicate, work together, team together, everyone achieves more. So that's the. So yes, thank you. And just one other thing I want to say. I was just recently in Silicon Valley, and in Silicon Valley they have a very famous saying: culture eats strategy for breakfast. They say this in the corporate world. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. In other words, you can have the best strategy in the world, but if you don't have culture, it will never work. And therefore they say strategy is what you do, and culture is how you do it. And even if you're doing the right things, but you do it in the wrong way, it will eventually fall apart. And therefore culture is so important. Not just what we do, but how we do it, how we achieve our service. And so, yeah. Sometimes we're so kind to people out there and we're so harsh with each other. This is also another amazing phenomenon of the Krishna consciousness movement. Like I remember once our Sankirtan leader, he was giving a class and he said, you know, and you met that person on the street and they gave you a donation, and all day you're talking, that person was so amazing, such a nice person I met on the street, I mean that was so amazing, so nice. And then your own Sankirtan partner who you had a little argument within the morning, you're looking at that person thinking, oh, that guy is spaced out, you know. But this is the person that's dedicated their life to standing on the street. And sometimes we can't see the beauty in that person, but sometimes we see the beauty in someone else. So sometimes we're very generous out there and then very strong with each other, unnecessarily. So we have to also be careful of that. It's easy, like once I was giving a conflict resolution seminar, so it was all devotees, so I said, put your hand up if you've had an argument with someone in the last week. So practically everyone put their hand up. And then I said, put your hand up if you had an argument with a devotee last week. And everyone put their hand up except one person in the front. So there's a man, I said, you didn't have any argument with a devotee last week? He said, no, I had an argument with my wife, but no devotees. I said, your wife's an initiated devotee. But it's so amazing that sometimes you don't see your family as devotees. Sometimes we come to a point where we don't actually see the people who are closest to us as devotees. It's an amazing phenomenon. So we have to be careful. Familiarity breeds contempt. Thank you. Yes?
Regarding your last point, opposition, I remember one interview that was conducted some months ago with a German politician whose career had ended a few years ago. And they spoke about one decisive moment in his career, which was when he was elected chairman of his party by 100% of the delegates of the party. And they showed footage of that, and he was like completely shocked when the result was announced. And he said in the interview that he had known the result before, somebody had told him, but still he was at that moment he was still in shock, because he realized that even his opponents, those who wanted him to be shot to the backside of the moon, voted for him. So, and he said that he realized that everybody had expectations, and obviously also very different expectations, but everyone, still voted for him. So it was impossible for him to fulfill at that moment he realized that it was impossible for him to fulfill everyone's expectations. So he was destined to fail in some way, because when your opponents
also vote for you,
then it means they expect a lot from you, but you're doomed to fail in that sense, that you cannot fulfill everyone's expectations.
Oh, that's an interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, so I think Srila Prabhupada also said something similar. He said people come to Krishna, there's a war, and some people come to Krishna saying, I pray that we will win, and then someone comes and say, we will win, and how can Krishna fulfill both? So it's kind of like that as a leader. There are so many different expectations and different desires that individuals want fulfilled. So yeah, you have to try your best and hope that people will see your sincerity. If you act with purity, if you act with communication, and if you share why you're doing what you're doing, then there's more chance that even the people who were expecting or wanting you to do something different, that they'll still accept. That's all you can do. So, yeah, thank you. I'll just come here and then I'll go back. What was the? Yeah. Oh, Lekha Shravanti also.
I have a question because you mentioned that chanting and reading, for example, is important, and if you don't have time to do that, then you should lower the service that you have more time for chanting and reading. But if you do that, and then the service goes to other people, and then they have less time to chant and read because they have more service. So how is can this be? So I can give an example. There is one devotee I know, and there was the question if he could help out on one day during the week, and then he said, "Oh no, then I have only 4 days for myself. It's it's not enough." And everyone else was like, 4 days for himself. Oh my God! So how to also kind of accept everyone's own time management of chanting and reading. So what do they need, and how can I not think like, how can you complain that you have only 4 days for yourself while others have no day for yourself? And so
yeah, management is complex because for 2 reasons. Management service is complex for 2 reasons. 1, because it's unpredictable, and 2, because it's always expanding. So therefore, is historically shown, for those who are in leadership or management positions, it's much more difficult to be regulated because of these 2, the nature of their service is these 2. There's a few things that you could consider. The first thing is that when pigeons fly, you know this one, right? They fly in a V shape. And the idea is that the pigeon that's at the front takes actually the maximum amount of wind pressure. And that makes it actually much easier for all the others who are flying behind to fly. But what they basically do is periodically, what do? One pigeon goes to the back and another one comes forward. It's also said that it's been scientifically proved that the pigeons at the back quack louder to give encouragement. That's also been proved actually. So everyone also, the more encouragement there is in a community. It's a profound point actually. In communities where individuals are openly encouraging and appreciative of each other, so much more gets done. You have to create a culture of appreciation. So the first thing is, I would say that everyone needs time to just be normal. Everyone needs time to be off the stage. Everyone needs time to be out of the role. It doesn't matter how powerful you are, how much capacity you have, everyone needs that. So I think a lot of it is rotation, sharing, Everyone should have a time off. There's one CEO who basically finds his employees if he finds out they've logged on during their holiday. He actually takes their wages away. Because he says there has to be a time when you don't look at it. And if you do, I take your wages out. In other words, he incentivizes not doing anything. Because he realizes in that moment, you actually regenerate yourself to come back and give more. I was just in Google. I was just saying I was in Silicon Valley, and in Google, you know what they do in Google? In some branches, is they give the employees one day where they can do just whatever they want to do. It's up to you, unsupervised. So they have this kind of creative room, creative floor, and every employee gets 1 day a week in that creative floor, and just do whatever you want to do. If you want to spend the whole day doing social media, no one will say anything. But do you know the most amazing thing? The best innovations and inventions of Google have come from that 1 day off. Because when you give people space, when you give people time to think, and when you give them the trust, in that space, the most amazing things actually come about. So, in a world which is obsessed with activity, valuing patience, valuing disconnection, valuing silence and creative churning has basically been obliterated. And the most intelligent and wise people factor that in. So, and Krishna says it in the Gita, passion is not sustainable. It's just the modes of nature. It's just not sustainable. So we can't think that we're more powerful than the modes of nature. Mama Maya, Duratyaya. It's very powerful. So, and the final thing I'd say is, don't underestimate the power of just creating a culture where devotees are joyful and happy in their service. I think what we do in ISKCON is we create sometimes a kind of community of service that's so intense that everyone, like nowadays if you tell ISKCON, do you want to be a temple president? Everyone's like, no way. Like it's almost like a joke now. Like it's a curse on someone. Now culturally that means somewhere we've gone badly wrong. Taking responsibility is the most beautiful thing in the world. But the moment everyone begins to think, I'm glad I'm not the president, that means we've created a culture in which taking responsibility is just seen as something, it's not joyful. Leadership is joyful, as long as you do it in the right way. Some thoughts. Okay, I don't know how long we should go. Oh, sorry. He's very humble. He never. Yes, okay. Yeah, it's 9:05. Shall we end here?
Yeah, but I can say something. For us in Berlin, I would say there's some people who take a lot of responsibility and do a lot of maybe overload service, but still I think it's still joyful also, and I think that's also very nice.
But everyone has a different capacity.
I just want to mention that
You're not saying that,
that I realized in Berlin, even we have like so many things to do, or so less people in the core team.
still I think the core team is very stacked together.
Yeah.
And they are like a family, and we support each other, and we have fun in service, and I think that's
Yeah. And there's no right, that's why I said these 5 things that I told you, they're very individual, and how you do them is a very individual thing. And what looks like balance for you may be very different to what looks like balance for someone else. You know, like I was just in New Mayapur, and there's like one devotee who is so reliable, is so like, has a wonderful service attitude, but after 6 p.m. they are not going to do anything. And what they've realized is that they need that. It's not them being uncooperative, it's not them being, you know, like, just like not enough service attitude. It's just they realize, I need this in my life. If I don't have this, I can't function. Whereas someone can easily look at that kind of person and say, what's this? They're not flexible, no service attitude, not willing to make the sacrifice. But everyone's different, and everyone's doing the best they can. So, all right. Thank you, everyone. Pleasure to be with you, and looking forward to the next couple of days. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.